Hey everyone, it's Caleb and Elaine from KEJ Productions. Welcome back to our channel. We've started this whole director's cut on our YouTube channel. It's really cool for us to be able to give some insight to the backstory of our couples, but also the technical side that we go through upon the edit.
I'm stoked because today we are going to do some director's commentary on Jon and Sumner's wedding, a destination wedding that we did in Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm telling you, it was just we knew going in this wedding would be lit, but it just exceeded our expectations in every way. It was just such a pleasure journeying with them. Really, it was 2 years. We're gonna jump right in with Jon and Sumner's wedding film. His energy is
we didn't have enough room for his personality.
Acknowledge that in her vows. I thought was just so beautiful. It's
which technically the movement of the camera isn't the greatest.
You see her, she's in focus, and then I don't care. Most of the time we hear from brides just because, they're the ones planning the wedding. But for this wedding, it was actually Jon. It was the groom that was tasked with finding a videographer. And I remember thinking, okay, this is someone I want to get on the phone with. And from the minute we got on the phone with him, I was like, yo, his energy is
we didn't have enough room for his personality.
I was like, his energy is next level. And then he was telling us about Sumner and how she's SoulCycle superstar. And when I looked her up, I was like, oh, she is
the real deal.
Shit, yo. So the pair of them, I knew it would just be a phenomenal weekend. And it was just everything that we could have hoped for them.
Yeah.
And more.
It was awesome. Let's jump in and watch this thing.
Jonathan Mark Hanna, I see you. And I see all of you.
Dress is crazy.
Just
every intentional and thought out action.
Unreal.
Every soft and comforting moment.
I've wanted to use this song from Kingsland
every
for
bit of past hurt
years.
and trauma.
This was important.
Every dance move and silly joke just to make me smile.
Come on, 5.
Every bit of sunshine you give me, even on a rainy San Francisco day. Every cheerful greeting at our front door after a long and sweaty day of work. And even every Saturday class you come to just to spend more time with me. I see it, and I have nothing but desire to love and cherish all of it and all of you. And I know that in seeing you, you have seen me. Deeply and without hesitation.
And into the ceremony. So this is the first time we see the ceremony. So I do want to pause after this.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I knew going into this film that there needed to be an intro. And we don't do mini highlight film intros very often, but there was so much in their weekend. We all felt okay, the viewer kind of needs to get a teaser of those things so they see what's coming.
I would say putting parameters around captivating the audience within the first 10 seconds. I mean, that's 101 editing. For this wedding in particular, we had no choice. There was so much we filmed, and we probably didn't utilize as much footage as we could have.
Well, this is the longest.
It's the longest film we've ever put out. But it could have been much longer just based off of the content.
I tried so hard to get this film, at 8 minutes? And honestly, if we cut this intro, we could have done it. But I was I wanted the film to start out slow and have a sacred moment before we really got into the story and
character building too.
Yeah, and character building for sure. When Sumner talks about I see you, and you'll see this theme repeated throughout the film of just this knowing of man, I can just be who I am in front of this person and I know fully who this person is. And there's one particular line in here where she talks about, I see you all the hurt and trauma. And I remember even on the wedding day when she said that, I was like, wow, this is someone who fully knows what she's stepping into and fully knows like her spouse. And I loved that she was so vulnerable about that on her wedding day, because listen, we film a lot of weddings. We've been married 9 years. And I know that walking through difficulty with a person is just part of the story. Like, that's just what you're going to do when you get married. And so the fact that Sumner acknowledged that in her vows, I thought was just so beautiful. It's like, goodness, it just does not get more true than that.
My Jonathan, but most importantly, the Johnny to my Summy. You can't cry yet.
I'm not crying yet.
This is like the perfect icebreaker, seriously.
Sorry.
Like,
right, pull it together.
I feel like that just like everybody was like, oh. And a good jab, because that's them too. It's like the roast and the toast, like always
It wasn't
married.
love at first sight for us.
So this is rehearsal
However,
dinner.
it was a couple years later when I agreed that you could pick me up in a taxi with all of those dudes for boys' night.
This was so fun.
Maybe it was when the random guy looked at us that night and asked, "What's y'all's story?" Or maybe it was right after that when he looked at me in the eyes and asked me if you could kiss me for the very first time.
So this setup was really important. This is like when they first met, how they started
I was
dating.
never one to dream about my wedding day. I never thought about what I would be wearing, how my hair would fall.
And then we transition into wedding day here.
But what I did dream about is the best friend, partner, and lover I would want for a lifetime.
So just a touch of John's getting
As I
ready
stand
here,
here today,
detail,
I'm looking at a man who's beyond anything I could have dreamt of.
and then jumping to a first look moment.
A man with such a kind heart and whose soul is pure as gold.
So we debated putting the first look here. I'm going to pause real quick. Internally, between me, Caleb, and Jordan, we kind of went back and forth as to whether we wanted to place the first look here. But I felt where she was going with her vows, it just fit perfectly. And I knew that I wanted their first look to have time. This shot in particular is it's just like one of my favorites ever. From a nerdy technical standpoint, I'm on my Sony G Master 90 macro on this lens. So it's a really tight shot, but I'm actually not that close to John. I'm several feet away from him. And I was just testing a shot because this is a pretty narrow hallway. But it just so happened that at this moment was when he heard her voice approaching that hallway. And I just happened to be standing there and
recording
and anticipating and I just waited. And this was his reaction. It's awesome. So like once we popped to this moment, I was moving. Because I knew Caleb, who was on the gimbal, would be wrapping around at some point.
And you can tell kind of like how I have John in the right third of the screen. It was intentional because I'm trying to frame out photographers and
me
in LA.
Who was moving.
And there was a lot of people there. I mean, we had 2 photographers. We had 3 of us. Jordan was in the back, just, we told him, lay back. It's too tight of a area. Mm-hmm. But you'll see how I'm trying to like frame other people out of the shot.
Yep.
And then they're cleared, and then you'll start to see me get more center.
Hi.
And this is my cam on the 90, so I had moved to the angle at this point, the other angle. And then back to Caleb here. So he held her, it was just...
Your love for me is infectious and passionate. You make me feel safe.
You make me feel safe, empowered, confident. Respected, valued, loved. It was so important that that moment happened to me during first look because you see his love for her so vividly there.
Yeah, and it was a decision we had to make because we are creating this film for our couple. Yes, definitely. They're number one. But we're also creating it for their family and friends. And are they represented well to those people?
Is what we're doing resonating with them? Not just John and Sumner, but are they saying that is who they are?
because he was so emotional, we didn't cut away from my camera, which technically the movement of the camera isn't the greatest. Like I'm kind of like moving around and doing this whole number with the intention that we were going to cut away from that. And so it's like, is the emotion, is the importance of what's happening more important than us switching away from the camera? Technically, yes. In that moment it was. And so it was like a hard decision you have to make. I'm pretty sure I was pushed out to 70 millimeters on my G Master 24-70. And I did that so I can get more compression and like get a little bit more bokeh in the background and like, anyways, that's the technical side of that.
I honestly don't mind it. It's just a real moment.
I'm going to rewind a little bit here. Trying to frame up with the door.
But I think it works because you see him, like, you see her, she's in focus, and then I don't care.
Yeah.
You appreciate me.
And I thought it was
And you
important.
love
You
me
see her
endlessly.
here, you see him respond.
I promise to be the best wife I can be and continue to evolve with you and beside you.
That John clap, that thing is so loud. His hand claps are so loud.
He cares deeply.
Oh my gosh.
Details here.
Sumner,
Beautiful
my
bouquet.
bride,
That
my
dress.
love of my life, my forever.
Come on, son.
You are beautiful in the way that makes people stop and stare at the sunset. Knowing each day.
Sorry, I had to stop because wedding films can be pretty generic as far as like, okay, how do you film this? Well, we have a wide shot, we have a groom cam, we have a bride cam. Like those are your shots. And then if you have a gimbal, you just set it on the ground, which our opening shot was the gimbal and just set in the middle of the aisle and like just framed up well. And it's a good safe shot, but that's what people expect. But I was like, while he's speaking, I want to push in with the gimbal as discreetly as possible so I'm not distracting guests or anything like that. So I pushed out to 70, that way I could be towards the back of the aisle. And I slowly pushed in. It's like we rehearsed this thing, but this is all live. The way he looks at her at the end of this,
Stare at the sunset.
it's so good.
Yeah.
Knowing each day it will come again.
So subtle, but it matters.
But knowing this is their last sunset, they wouldn't want to miss it.
His vows are ridiculous.
Unreal. I love that hand
When we
thing
first
she did.
met, I knew you were different. You carried yourself with confidence. You spoke with certainty. You carried no baggage. You are present and forgiving. Your heart is pure.
So sweet.
I want you to know that dress, it was for sure worth it.
I love that was probably a conversation in their house. Like,
Yeah.
what are we spending on this dress? But oh my God.
You are strong in ways I will never be.
Unreal.
You are stronger than you give yourself credit for.
Ooh.
I would have never guessed the human that keeps me safest would also come in such a small package.
So during that moment where he's talking about her size, it was important for me to place that during this frame. Just her personality is like John was saying, just secure and confident, but not cocky, just like super genuine person. And so in these bridal portraits, I wanted to represent that. So I wanted to show like she's a petite woman, but in these frames, I wanted it to not just be feminine, but to be strong. And so the fact that her chin is lifted and, you just see the muscles in her back and she's, staring straight out was really important.
In times when I have been weak,
And
you
next
have
to
lifted
John,
me up.
she really looks tiny.
In moments of insecurity, you have confirmed why we
So
are.
during this moment, we were walking to this dock, which is, we're always telling people, stay connected. Put your hand on her back, grab her hand, lead her. And every single moment is an opportunity for filming. And the opening shot of this film is this moment. And it's because the sun was sitting right. We have that tree. You see the hair, like the sun is acting as a hair light, so you can see it pushing through her hair. It is probably some of the most beautiful like walking shots that we've ever gotten. And it was just because we were walking from
One
a different
location
location to a new location.
Me up. In moments of insecurity, you have confirmed why we are together. You have been our rock.
Sweet. Oof, that
You have shown me
dress.
what it means to be a family.
This was an important moment.
You have treated my family as your own. You brought me closer to my family. reminded me what it means to honor your parents.
I love that he said this.
And you've allowed our families to become one much bigger and weirder family.
I love the burn. There's always the burn in there.
When you stepped off that plane in Greenville and first met your mother, she hugged me like my mom has always hugged
His
me.
mom.
Tight and warm and just a little too long. I knew I was home.
I have to make a
knew I
note
was home.
about this. So we actually came close to cutting that line because of the length of the film. And Caleb and Jordan were the ones that were like, no, it's just too real. It's too honest. And it's super relatable. Like, I was thinking about this morning. Like, what he's talking about, like meeting your future in-laws, like what he's describing is literally like the best case scenario, because the in-law relationship remains to be always like a little bit awkward, but it's home. You know, so.
Well, and the reason it was also under consideration to get rid of was because the way that we had the visuals landing in the timeline, it did not make any sense. Mm-hmm. And then we remembered they had these like words of advice. Mm-hmm. And that's whenever we see this.
First met your mother.
Whenever I first met your mother. And so we're able to visually introduce her. Mm-hmm. And then whenever he says, you held me like my mother did.
Mm-hmm. She hugged me.
Boom. Perfect opportunity for us to bump to the first dance or the mother-son dance. Mm-hmm. And so you visually connect immediately.
My mom has always hugged me. Tight and warm.
And then the joke.
And just a little too long.
And then, boom, we're back to mom. And you've already seen her twice. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very intentional on that. But it took us a while to
figure it out.
To figure that moment out. So
I knew I was home. I knew I was home.
I love that line.
Sumner, you have made me a better man.
Twice.
You have taught me patience and kindness, calm, and
Love
how
this.
important being present in each moment is. I love you, and I will always love
it's
you.
like nothing else mattered in that moment.
Yeah,
but
nothing. Sweet. Oh, John. And then we're transitioning into night here.
You know what's funny is that we never talked about this like in the edit, but where we landed on him hugging her dad, I was like, I think it's so cool. Like, it was so meaningful because he held on to that hug for a long time too, like in that moment, because he's so extra. And like, I love that about his personality is like, no, like
it's all the way.
This is
all the time.
And he understood what is happening in that moment. This is another one of those moments where I just found like, okay, I have an opportunity to show the entirety of this thing, but not knowing that it was going to be a transitional moment, I just decided to dip the gimbal back to have some kind of like
context,
cool thing. Yeah. So you'll see that
here. And it gives context like to the tent, you know?
Yeah.
I'm Lindsay Mason. And in case you're wondering,
this girl's so
I'm the
swaggy.
other woman in John's life. And really, I think it's a good thing that the co-best man is a woman. It means John will do well in a relationship where the woman wears the pants.
So, instant mood change. Like, now we're into night.
And the music.
Yeah.
Putting into words John's true character is nearly impossible. It's a feeling you get when you're with him, that everything with John is better. He has a big heart, a big laugh.
I love that he looks straight at the camera and is like
keeking with you.
Some would say
he's a man of excess, but I think he's just got a huge capacity for love. And with everything he does, he's all in.
What a gift. Like, you give all your boys brackish ties.
This is truly a fairy tale wedding. From the moment we all walked in, I think we realized that. This gorgeous venue, being a black tie.
So the drums in this, definitely like
and John the Beast.
Kind of give a clue to what's coming up next. That's why I was so drawn to this song. So this was a surprise for Sumner, obviously, her face.
It was a total surprise. They marched in. They actually synced up with the band in order to play to an Odessa song from Game of Thrones. And like, as soon as she heard it, she was like, oh, this is my jam. This is what we're walking into our introductions to the reception. But then she saw the band and it was just as hype as and her expression, she was completely shook. She had never thought that was going to be a thing. And then they went into this, they just kept on going into this cadence, and they were killing it. It was like some high school marching band out of South Carolina, and they were
crushing it. I remember when John called us about this.
Right.
He was so excited that he secured this high school band. And I was like, this is just perfect. And it was only like a week later that we heard from Sumner, who was like, hey, I'm surprising John with a flash mob. And I was like, man, that's like how you love your person. Like the fact that both of them had these surprises planned for each other. Like
secret surprises.
Outrageous surprises planned for each other. I was like, this is just so awesome. And they're two of the best secrets we've ever had to keep.
Yeah.
Dearest brother, here we are on your wedding day. You did it.
Back to cocktail hour here.
Sumner, you are enchanting in every way. There is nothing I do not adore about you.
John amplifies Sumner's ambition,
and
together they make a bold, unmatched team. Johnny, you see Sumner.
So back to the theme of I See You. So in the very beginning, remember in the intro, we were really intentional about using Sumner's words. And so I loved that Caroline wrapped it around. I'm just like, John, you see Sumner. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
The fact that both of them said that about each other.
Yeah.
You believe in her wholeheartedly and support her like no one I've ever known.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you what it means to see her loved as fiercely as she's
I love this shot because it's so real. It's not directed. It's just like, that's who they are.
Yeah, that was the
way
ending of that moment.
love
So
my
we're just
sister
moving.
and adore her is how every single person wants and should be loved.
Cheers to the wonderful,
That's Jordan's
beautiful,
editing, all this.
So I just wanted to make a note about our audio during the toast. Whenever I talked to the band, we had a record feed from them, but they accidentally had the verb and the delay. And it was like, it's like you turn down the volume, but it didn't go all the way. It was just there. And so we were hearing a delay and the reverb in the microphone whenever we got in post. But you'll see on here, and you can kind of see it, which I'm glad it's like pretty blended in. But we had a microphone strapped to the actual wireless mic, so we could have a redundant recording. And we had to use that mic for all of our toasts, and it actually worked.
It worked
pretty dang well. So
redundancy.
Yeah.
Wants and should be loved.
Cheers to the wonderful, beautiful couple.
Flash mob. I love this reaction. He was so geeked. This is like the most fun to edit. Those horns with the horn line. Back to Portrait. Set the mood.
Real quick, before we bump in there. So we had a talk in our plan for what was about to happen. So I had that center framed up shot with John in the bottom. And you can see everyone that's in the flash mob. And then you had the 70 to 200, which I don't know if that was Jordan or
John.
you.
That was Jordan.
That was facing John off that side look. And he had me framed out of it, which was great. And then you had Elaine, who was punched in on Sumner. So we had a plan.
Party went off. So all this was Caleb's idea.
I promise to love you.
Yeah.
I promise to love you more today than I did yesterday.
I love their
and I
cake. We
promise to
hardly
love you
ever
more
put
tomorrow than I
cake
do
cuttings
today.
in film.
I promise to protect you,
but
your
I
body,
love this
your
toast,
heart, and
how
your
they
soul.
toasted everybody.
I know that
This was
today
another
you take my
surprise from
last name.
Sumner, a live
I
painting,
promise
which
to
was
always honor
gorgeous.
yours.
Hey! Oh my goodness. If you're not that stoked to get married, like, don't even call me.
One more time for the people in the back. I promise to love you. I promise to love you more today than I did yesterday, and I promise
So
to
this
love
was
you
me
more
on the
tomorrow than I
balcony,
did
just
today.
tried something
Josh,
new.
let's do this. Let's do this!
That was amazing.
Just a few emotions.
Lots.
Just a few emotions. Lots.
Yeah, so
I just love them.
I mean, it was so cool. All the backstory on the editing side, the shooting side. Like, I'm so stoked and happy that we were the ones to able to capture this story. Process.
Yeah, I just love their story again. Just love that people trust us to tell their stories. It's like just the greatest honor.
Yeah.
So
if you guys like this film, make sure you leave comments down below, like and subscribe. We're going to keep on putting out content like this, and we are so stoked that you're here. We'll see you guys soon.
all right, see ya.
Bye.